Okay, good morning everybody, and Hazak Baruch. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Wednesday morning. Today's class has been sponsored anonymously for the Refuah Shlema of all of Am Yisrael. Hashem should bless our anonymous sponsor with all the berachot of the Torah. Amen. Today's class is also sponsored and dedicated in honor of our father Joe Shabbat for his birthday. We love you and may Hashem continue to bless you with health, spiritual growth, parnasa, and oli beracha by his children and all of his grandchildren. Hazak Baruch. Happy birthday to Joe Shabbat. Today's class, Rabotai, we are studying Perashat Shemini, and we are going to the middle of the Perashah. So if you have a Chumash, please open up to chapter 11, Pasuk 1. And our Perashah, like we mentioned earlier, deals with the laws of kosher and not kosher. So today I would like to speak about that for just a few minutes. First of all, just to go through the text a little bit, the Torah tells us which animals we are permitted to eat, which animals we are not permitted to eat. And anyone that is familiar with the religion and with Judaism understands that there are certain things that are kosher and not kosher. There are certain animals that we cannot eat. So for example, there are different types of animals. There are sea creatures, there are land creatures, there are air creatures. So as an example, which animals am I not allowed to eat when it comes to the land animals? So the Torah is not going to list every single animal on the planet. It's going to be a very long Torah, and as it is, some people could barely handle the 2-hour services on Shabbat. So we're trying to get them out as fast as possible. So the Torah is not going to list for us every animal that's kosher or not kosher. Instead, the Torah does something very smart, and Hashem tells us a siman. It's a sign or witnesses or evidence, and if the animal has these signs, you know if it's a kosher animal or a not kosher animal. So when it comes to the land animals, the kosher animals need two simanim, two signs. It has to have split hooves, and right, the feet, its feet have to be split hooves, and if you want to Google it to just see what that looks like. And then B, it has to be able to also chew its cud. Okay? These are the animals that are kosher. And if you look and you go to a kosher restaurant, every animal that's kosher, it has those two. Right? If you're ordering steak, right? A cattle. Or if you're ordering, mammals maybe is a nice way of saying it. I'm not sure though if every mammal is kosher. I don't want to say that, right? A whale is a mammal. So, right, I think a whale is a mammal, or right? So I don't want to say that all mammals are kosher. But it's a lamb, it's a sheep, it's a goat, cow, etc. Okay? These all have split hooves and they chew their cud. Okay? If you don't have both, or if you have one without the other, then it's not kosher. Now, it's interesting when it comes to the land animals, besides for needing to be a kosher species, like we just said, it has to have these signs, it also needs to be killed in a kosher way. So for example, if you're going to go to a restaurant and tell the waiter, please sir, make sure I'm Jewish, I keep kosher, I need a lamb. He's going to give you a lamb, but it could be not kosher because the way it was slaughtered. So therefore we have to make sure that we're ordering the meat, not only that it's kosher meat, but also, right, camel and horse are mammals, they're not kosher. And those are mammals, right? Okay, I think that's what you're trying to say. So you have to make sure that you're not only getting a kosher species, but we're also getting a kosher species that was killed in a kosher way. That's called in Hebrew shechita, right? The laws of shechita are very complicated. In the old country, they used to take the animal, go to the shochet, and he would kill it for them in the right way. And then after you kill it, there's also some stuff that needs to be done. You can't just eat it right away. We have to salt it to remove the blood. We also cannot eat a certain part of the animal from the thigh called the gid hanasheh. Again, a lot of laws. Always good to just purchase our meats from a reliable kosher butcher. Okay, that is when it comes to the land animals. After the land animals, there are fish. Not all fish are kosher. Now, most people know that lobster, you can't have lobster. But it's not just lobster. Again, when it comes to fish, also two signs. If you want to order fish, it needs to be, it has to have fins and it has to have scales. If it has fins and it has scales, then it's kosher. Unlike a land animal, fish do not need to be shechita. Okay, I'm assuming we all understood that. It was a given, right? They don't kill fish, they don't slaughter it from the neck. They just take it out of the water. And for that reason, technically, I could go to a not kosher store, right? Costco or wherever, and I could purchase fish that I see with my eyes that it has fins and it has scales. I don't have to worry how it was killed. It doesn't matter. Okay? Unlike meat, though, I cannot go to Costco and just get a piece of steak. Although it's much cheaper and I would probably save millions of dollars at the end of my life. But I cannot do that because it wasn't killed the right way by Costco. Okay? When it comes to birds is very difficult. There's no signs when it comes to birds. Instead, birds is a list. Okay? Birds is the only thing that the Torah does list, every single bird, or at least most birds or many birds. Today, again, we go with Mesorah, we go with tradition. These birds we knew were kosher all along, and we stay with them. Certain birds that we didn't have a Mesorah for, then we don't have them. We don't eat them. Okay, so we're allowed to have duck, we're allowed to have chicken, right? Certain birds that we're allowed to have based on our tradition. Okay, so these are the three main categories of animals. Creatures, land creatures, birds, and fish. Okay, now, when it comes, besides for these, there are also insects. Okay, insects are not okay. Insects are not kosher. Okay, but some are, like a grasshopper, technically is kosher. Okay, but other insects are not kosher to eat. So, for example, there are many people that respect the laws of kosher, and they know when they go to a restaurant, they're not going to eat any not kosher meat, they're not going to eat any not kosher bird, or any not kosher chicken, poultry, or any not kosher fish. So they're going to go to a vegan restaurant. What's the halacha? Could I go to a vegan restaurant following the guidelines of halacha 100%? Let's say I am somebody that cares about halacha 100%. I want to eat at a vegan restaurant. Vegan by definition means there's no animal. They're not allowed to have animals over here. So I'm not breaking any halacha. So there are a few issues still. If I'm trying to follow halacha 100%, there are still issues that will exist at a vegan restaurant. You say, but Rabbi, how? Number one, insects. Okay? Insects in the vegetables. The way the halacha requires that we clean our vegetables is much more than how maybe the FDA would clean their vegetables, okay, and how much they're required to clean their vegetables. And therefore, you have to make sure, number one, that there's no insects in the food, in the vegetables. Number two, there's a separate problem. We know that as Jews, we're also not allowed to drink, besides for these foods, we're not allowed to drink wine of goyim. Are we aware of that? Right? Most people are aware of this. We're not allowed to drink not kosher wine. Every wine that we ever want to drink must be kosher with an OU. Okay? Now, you'll say, okay, Rabbi, so I won't order any wine at this restaurant. Okay, but do you know that there are many salads that have dressing called vinegar? Vinegar is spoiled wine. Maybe that vinegar that they're using is not kosher. So again, if we're trying to follow halacha, we have to make sure, no insects. We have to make sure that we're not going to order vinegar. Because again, it's a not kosher restaurant, there's no hashkacha, so maybe the vinegar they're using is not kosher. Number three, there's a separate problem of who is the one that is cooking my food. The rabbis, this is leaving now the Torah halacha, and we're going now to the Rabbanans. The rabbis instituted that as well, we have to make sure that the food that we are eating is cooked by a Jew. Now, it doesn't have to be fully cooked by a Jew, but a Jew must be involved in the process. So as an example, for Ashkenazim, that means one thing. For Sfaradim, it's a little bit more. But the bare minimum is that the Jew should turn on the fire. If it's a not kosher restaurant, they don't have a mashgiach, I could guarantee you no Jew is turning on the fire. So the food that we're eating was cooked by a non-Jew. We're violating now the halacha de Rabbanan. So again, if we're trying to follow halacha 100%, we have to make sure we're avoiding any of the vegetables that could have insects. We're avoiding any vinegar. We're avoiding any cooked foods, right? So this, by the way, throws out again sushi. Sushi has rice. rice is cooked by a non-Jew. That's not okay if we're following halacha. So these are, again, some things that we should be aware of, that we should be careful of when we are going to eat out, okay? And again, whatever your level is, we're growing slowly, we're not ready for it, but we should have it in the back of our minds to at least know the halacha, the ideal, the goal, where we should be headed, okay? So these are a kitzur, a summary of the laws of kosher and non-kosher, okay? Now, of course, there's a separate problem. Even after I kill it, I have to make sure, shechita, I have to make sure that there's no life-terminating illness in the animal. So as an example, right? You order a piece of meat. Imagine you own a cow. You go to the butcher slaughters it. Is it now good to go? Well, you told me, Rabbi, you got to salt it for the blood. Okay, fine, you salt it for the blood. Now is it good to go? Still not good to go. Now you got to check the animal and see if it has inside of it something that would have been lethal, right? This is actually something that's very common today. A lot of times they inject the animals with certain hormones or whatever it is, and these could puncture vital organs. And they could sometimes, they make the animal not kosher according to halacha. That's why today, after they kill the animal, the shochet has to check the lungs to make sure. Okay, I want everyone to pay attention over here, by the way. Okay, we're going to go into a interesting halachic matter, so I need you to be fully focused. Again, most of us are not worrying about this, but it's just good to know. Okay, why is it that some animals are glat, some animals are bet Yosef, right? What does that mean? So after we kill the animal, we have to make sure that its lungs are not punctured. The lungs have to be intact. So what happens? You open up the lungs, you look inside, the guy blows it up, he sees the lungs, and you're checking if there's a hole, right? Like a tire. How do you check a tire? If there's a hole in the tires, you blow it up and you see if you add water, you see if there's bubbling anywhere around it. They're checking the lungs to make sure there's no holes. If there's holes, the animal, it means the animal was going to die anyways. It's a taref animal, it's not kosher. Okay, but even though it's a cow and you did shechita the right way. What happens though, sometimes on the outside of the lungs, there's a sircha, right? Very good, Ariel. There's this type of very soft, I don't know how you want to call it, like a tissue or something. And that now raises a question. Maybe that tissue was formed because there was a hole that got covered up. Now, how do you know? Is it a problem? Is it not a problem? It's like a scab, a little bit like a scab. Okay, type of like a scab. So according to the Ashkenazim, there's certain leeway that they have that they're allowed to just brush over the lung, and if that tissue that's there just peels right off without force, it just comes right off, then it's insignificant and it's kosher. They're a little bit lenient with this, actually, more lenient than the Sfaradim. The Sfaradim allow nothing there. So what happens is sometimes there's a tiny thing, the guy will brush it off, you say, okay, it's kosher for Ashkenazim. And now they give it a stamp. That's called glat. But that's not enough for Sfaradim. For Sfaradim, we need more than glat. We need also bet Yosef. Bet Yosef means there was nothing there. Okay? And therefore, it's very important when we're ordering our meat to try to get Bet Yosef, if we're Sfaradim, to try to get Bet Yosef meat. Okay, again, it gets very complicated today. Unfortunately, today the whole thing became a business, and there's many places that are not reliable, many places that cheat, and they put Bet Yosef even though it's not, or they put Glat even though it's not. And therefore, make sure you're getting your meat from a reliable butcher that's getting his meat from a reliable provider, etc., etc., etc. Okay? Fine, very good. Now, why kosher? Why is it that the halakha requires that our meat is to be kosher? So, of course, the Rambam Maimonides in the Moreh Nevuchim says it comes down to physical health. He says if you take a look, you will find that all of the animals that are not kosher, it's because they're physically not healthy, and Hashem was trying to protect us, like the Torah always does. And according to the Rambam, it's a very rational approach, again, like he usually takes. It's about physical health, and these animals are physically not healthy. Okay? Period. End of Rambam. Okay? Now, I don't know what the Rambam would say about most of our cuisine today. Okay? I don't think schnitzel is any healthier. Right? Probably the Rambam wouldn't like schnitzel either. The Akedat Yitzchak, Rabbi Yitzchak Arama, he has over here many problems with the Rambam's rationale. He says if it's true that it's about physical health, well, then let's say science finds out that today there's nothing unhealthy about a camel, right? Or there's nothing unhealthy physically about a pig, right? Will now you be okay with koshering that species, Maimonides? Will you now kosher it? I don't know, right? Not only that, but he says, look around the world. Are the goyim any less healthy than Jews? They're eating not kosher. They're eating lobster. They're eating all these things. If it's true what you just said, that it's a health issue, so the goyim should be dying at younger ages than Jews. Is that true? Let's look at a study. I don't know, could someone Google? I didn't Google this before the class, but could someone Google, do non-Jews die earlier than Jews? I don't think so. I don't think that kosher, says Rabbi Yitzchak Arama, I don't think goyim are dying at a relatively young age than Jews, younger age than Jews. Okay, not only that, right? Hold on, Ariel, hold on. Okay, now, not only that, but if it's about health and physical health, so continue. Why'd you stop at animals? There are vegetables that are healthier than other vegetables, right? Avocado is amazing, right? Others are less, so maybe the Torah should have told us which vegetables to eat, right? And he says, it's very hard for me to believe that the Torah would waste such precious real estate on telling you so many things that we don't find anywhere else in the Torah. We find one pasuk, v'nishmartem me'od lenafshotechem, that you should protect your health. That's an overall pasuk. Torah doesn't now go and tell you details of how to live a healthy life. So very hard for me to believe that over here the laws of kosher are doing just that. And therefore, the Ramban Nachmanides, he comes along and he takes more of a spiritual approach. Nachmanides, Abarbanel, and are you ready for what they say? They say that the laws of kosher is not about a physical well-being, it's more about a spiritual, healthy person. And again, you are what you eat is not only on a physical level, says Nachmanides, you are what you eat is very spiritual. And if you're eating an animal that's very aggressive, you will become aggressive. Says Nachmanides, look at the animals that are kosher. They're very tame. They're good-natured. And therefore, even the fish that are allowed to eat, right? They're more calm. The birds that we're allowed to eat, they're not vultures. They're not aggressive. They're not carnivores. Right? All of the birds that we're allowed to eat are very calm animals. The mammals that we're allowed to eat are very calm animals. You are what you eat. If you're going to eat not kosher, you're going to become very angry. You're going to become very aggressive. It's going to go into your nature. That's simple, says the Ramban. What's very interesting, Rabbi Hirsch adds to the Ramban something beautiful. You ready for this? He says if you look at the simanim, the kosher symbol of the animals. What makes an animal kosher? The signs, split hooves and chewing its cud. Those signs themselves actually are hinting to you why they are kosher. Take a look. If an animal has split hooves, what's the alternative to split hooves? Claws. Claws, aggressive. Don't have that. Don't eat that. Stay away from claws. Split hooves, very calm. They can't hurt you. They can't trample you. They can't hurt, right? Chewing its cud. Why do these animals chew their cud? Because they didn't digest them well. They didn't chew them properly the first time. They don't have fangs. Instead, they have flat teeth. So they're regurgitating their food. They're regurgitating the vegetables that they're eating. So it's amazing. Look at the simanim themselves. The Ramban is telling, Rabbi Hirsch is adding, the simanim themselves are indicating to us how these animals, why these animals are kosher. You know, we're studying in the morning in the synagogue by breakfast. We're doing Mesilat Yesharim. Okay? I'm not sure if you're studying this book. I'm not sure if you heard of this book. But it's a must-have in every Jewish home. An amazing book on self-help and personal growth, helping a person work on their midot correctly. Ramchal, Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, an Italian scholar from the 1700s, who the Gaon of Vilna said, if he was alive, I would walk on foot all the way just to see him. And they didn't live down the block. Okay? They lived very far from each other. But, it's interesting, just to touch back on the reason of the Rambam. There are many, if you look around today, there are many foods that have an OU or an OK or a Chafke, whatever, a kosher symbol. I always thought about it. I wondered, why in the world would Coca-Cola pay OU to put their stamp on their food? Why do all of these foods pay OU to do it? They have to pay OU a lot of money to get just that little symbol on their foods. And the answer is, there are many goyim that think. There are many goyim that think this. That if there's an OU, it's healthier. Many goyim will not touch food if it doesn't have an OU. They won't buy. So it's not only the Jewish market, the Jewish community that they're marketing, they're also connecting to many non-Jews that they feel that, again, it's much healthier. And this goes back to the Rambam. But coming back for a second, back to the Ramchal, Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, in his Mesilat Yesharim, he speaks about different traits that we have to work on. He begins with Zehirut, watchfulness. He moves on to Zerizut, which is being active, I guess. And then he goes to a third trait in chapter 10, 11. He talks about the midah of nekiyut. Are you familiar with this trait? Nekiyut, from the word naki, means to be clean, spiritually clean. And it's more than just being watchful. Because at the end of the day, watchfulness, and I'm going to read to you what Rabbi Twersky writes over here. Watchfulness is effective only when one realizes that a particular act is sinful. Right? I could only be watchful when I agree that it's a sin. But, right, so I could take precautions to avoid it. Where such awareness is lacking, one may not be on guard. So, for example, he says, a lack of recognition may be due to one's judgment faculties being blinded or bribed. Like the Torah says, a bribe blinds even the wisest of men. So the bribe sometimes, what could be a bribe? These are intense physical drives which a person is subject. We all have drives. There is the lust drive. There is a drive for money, for wealth. There is a drive for for food, right? These are all drives that we have, and therefore, because of these drives, a person sometimes will be biased to not automatically be able to judge something properly. I'll give you an example. We have a drive for money, for wealth. And so, a person may rationalize and justify things that normally we agree are not okay. Stealing. Is stealing okay? Of course not. Could I cheat? No. Could I lie? No. Yet when it comes to business, there are many people that it's okay. And these are moral people. These are people with an ethical code. But when it comes to making money, no, business is business. Business is something else. It's an exception. I'm allowed to lie for business. And this person now can no longer be watchful in his office because he now koshered it. He made it okay. It's okay now to steal from the government or from clients or from other people. Everybody does this. This is part of the world. It's okay to put fake reviews on your Amazon account. That's what everyone does. That's the only way that you're going to attract clients, right? So we're going to lie now, even though we would never lie. And if we found out that our children lied, we would punish them and we would reprimand them. What are you doing? You can't lie. If we found out that our children cheated on a test, we would scream at them. Yet, when it comes to business, some people will automatically lie. When it comes to a drive, the lust drive, many times a person will be blinded and they'll do something that will go against all of their values because they're blinded. When it comes to food is a very strong drive that we have for our appetite. And so a lot of times people will be in a situation that they'll see food that may be questionable and then they'll rationalize and justify that it's okay to eat it because I'm hungry or whatever. And therefore we need to remember and apply what we're learning today. You are what you eat is not only in a physical way, you are what you eat is true also in a spiritual sense. And if we want to perform our best on a spiritual level, if we want to be open to learning on the highest level, we need to stay away from certain spiritual foods. Do you know that Tom Brady, the GOAT, the best football player, maybe the best quarterback in all time forever, okay, 7 Super Bowls. Did you ever see his diet? Look at what he's eating every day, okay? Such a strict diet. Why? I eat pizza once a week. What's the big deal? I eat meat 3 times a week. I don't know, I'm healthy. What will Tom Brady tell you if you told him that? He says, yeah, but I'm competing to be the number 1 QB of all time. I need to perform on a much higher level than you. No offense. And we all respect it. When we are aiming to grow in a spiritual way, we need to stay away from foods that are spiritually damaging. There was once a rabbi that he gave a shiur, and when he was done giving the class, he went around and he pointed to each and every kid, and he said, you eat kosher, you don't. You do, you don't. You do, you don't. And he was 10 for 10. And the kids were shocked. Their jaws dropped. They couldn't believe it. They're like, Rabbi, how do you know? And the rabbi said, because when I was talking about a certain concept, you understood it and the other ones didn't. And this rabbi understood that if they had a hard time understanding and grasping a certain idea, it's because their diet was restricting them from tapping into these higher levels of understanding. And so if we are ready and we want to grow spiritually and we're ready to move on to the next level of observance and connection to Hashem and improvement of our midot, we need to also realize it begins with nutrition. And it begins with spiritual nutrition. And it's one of the very first things that a rabbi will tell a person to start fixing when they're ready to grow spiritually. Okay, and because we are so biased and we have that drive to eat, we have to make sure that we are working and doing whatever we can to grow. And again, it's a very big commitment and it's a very big sacrifice. I'm not belittling it. Kosher, going out to eat kosher, it's our social life, right? A lot of times it means we cannot hang out now with certain people. I'm not saying it's easy. And I respect tremendously people that take these steps to try to, grow their family in these ways. I had a student one time, he came to me and he asked me, he said, Rabbi, I just want to know, am I allowed to eat at a certain restaurant that doesn't have a hechsher, it doesn't have a stamp of approval it doesn't have a kosher hashgacha. So, I was shocked that the kid was even asking me, because this kid, I knew didn't keep kosher. So I said to him, I'm surprised that you're asking because I thought you didn't keep kosher. So he says, well, I'm trying to start. And I couldn't believe it. I was so impressed. And, I told him, listen, it's not ideal, this and that. Why do you want to go to this restaurant? So he told me the other day his father wanted to take them out to eat at a not kosher pizzeria. And this kid who was trying to start keeping kosher, so he tried avoiding it and he said, Dad, what about this restaurant? Let's try to go to that restaurant. Until finally the father caught on, and the father's like, tell me, are you keeping kosher all of a sudden? Is that why you're trying to avoid these restaurants? And the kid said to his father, he says, yeah. And the kid said, I thought my father was going to yell at me and whatever. And instead my father was very understanding. He said, okay, we'll go to somewhere kosher. And my father just wanted to know if now could we go to this restaurant? It's like vegan. So it's like an in-between. It's a compromise between, what he wants and what I want. So, we went to a rabbi, we discussed the different options. But it's beautiful when I see people like this that are taking steps to become kosher. It's a very big sacrifice. It's not just food. It's food, it's your friends now, it's social setting, it's everything. But it's something that we need to be cognizant about and to be conscious about and to realize that when we're looking to grow, we have to up our game, not only in how we act, but in what we eat. Because like the Ramban is telling us, these foods will affect our nature. Maybe on a very small level, but it's going to affect our nature. And just like Tom Brady is going to stay away from certain... And by the way, you should know something. even within the Jewish people. Certain Jews must stay away from certain food. Kohanim, they're performing on an even higher level than everyone else. And therefore, Kohen has to stay away from even more foods than a regular Jew. Right? A Kohen cannot eat tameh foods. So this is true in all areas. We're trying to grow. We need to make sure that we stay away from these foods that are spiritually going to damage us and going to stunt our growth. Okay? Now, just to end off on a very interesting note, there are 4 exceptions of animals, because usually an animal will have either both signs or none. But there are 4 exceptions of animals that have one without the other. Anyone know what they are? There are 4 animals and only 4. I could lip read, Joe. Go ahead. There are 4 and only 4. That pig, yes, correct. The pig has, which one? Split hooves. What else? It doesn't chew its cud. We also have the camel. There's the hare and the rabbit. These 4 have one and not the other. Okay? The camel, the rabbit, and the hare, they chew their cud, but they don't have split hooves. The pig has split hooves, but it doesn't chew its cud. By the way, it's very interesting when you look at a camel and you look at how it sits. How does a camel sit? It buries its feet under its belly, and it chews its cud. It tries to show you, look, I'm kosher, but it's really not. It hides its psul. The pig does the opposite. The pig sits like this. Look, I'm kosher. And that's something in life we have to be very careful about. Not being a faker. Not to be like the pig. Not to be like the camel. There are many people that they show the world, I'm religious. And they show the whole world when they're praying in public, kavanah, and they're learning, they're sitting there with diligence. And really behind closed doors, they're doing a lot of things that they shouldn't be doing. We have to be very, very careful, Rabotai, that we are not fakers like the pig and like the camel. The Midrash tells us that these 4 animals represent the 4 galuyot that the Jewish people will encounter. We went through 4 exiles throughout our journey as Jews. Bavel, they destroyed the first temple. In order, Paras, that's Purim, Persia. Yavan, Greece, that's Hanukkah. And then Rome, Edom, which is the Galut that we are still in. They destroyed the second temple. And each one, the Midrash goes and it shows how each one is a different Galut. What's very interesting though, the Torah, when it lists the 4 exceptions, okay, take a look at Pasuk 4. Pasuk 5, chapter 11. The Torah goes through the animals that have one and not the other. It lists the shafan, that's the hyrax, okay? And then the hare, and then the pig. Sorry, I skipped the Pasuk. 4. Hagamal, the camel. I always found it interesting that the word gamal in Hebrew was literally the same word in English. Kamal, camel, gamal, yeah, okay. So the camel, then the hyrax, and then the hare. Each one is in its own pasuk. And finally the pig, also its own pasuk. So 4 psukim for 4 animals. At the end of the Torah, Perashat Re'eh, I don't know if you knew this, the Torah repeats in Devarim many of the laws that it said earlier in the Torah. In Perashat Re'eh, the Torah goes through again the list of animals that are kosher and not kosher. And here, when it lists these 4 animals that are exceptions, it puts the first 3 in one pasuk. Chapter 14, in Sefer Devarim, chapter 14, pasuk 7. It says, Gamal, Arnevet, Shafan, all in one category. And then the next pasuk, Chazir, in its own category, its own pasuk. Now we understand why on a biological level the Torah did that, because the first 3 have the same problem. The first 3 don't have split hooves. The pig does, so we put it in its own pasuk. But maybe according to the Midrash, if it's true that each one corresponds to a different galut, maybe what the pasuk is trying to hint to us, the first three are one category of exiles. They're going to be rather quick. The fourth galut is its own category, and we are still in that galut today, and we are praying, we are hoping that we come out of it very, very soon. The Midrash, though, says something very interesting. You ready? The Midrash says, the word hazir, what does that word sound like in Hebrew? Anyone, if you speak Hebrew, you should know. What does hazir mean in Hebrew? Chazir means from the word to return. Very good, Lina. Lehahzir, to come back. What's going to come back? So the Midrash says it's going to atid lehachzir atara leyoshna. It's a very famous phrase in Hebrew. Be'ezat Hashem, to return the crown to its glory. It's a very nice bracha that we give someone. I give you a bracha that the crown should return to its glory. It means you should return to your original state of success. And that's the words are taken from the Midrash, Vayikra Rabbah, in this past parasha. It's brought down by the pig. And it says that the pig is going to one day return its crown to its former glory. Now, by the way, the word choser is not found anywhere in Torah. It's not a Hebrew word. It is Hebrew, but it's not a biblical word. I don't know if you knew that. Just like the word mechila, nowhere in Tanakh. Selicha is in Tanakh. Kapara is in Tanakh, forgiveness and sorry. But mechila, nowhere in Tanakh you will find that word. Okay, that's what Rabbi Bernstein points out very interestingly. Either way, the word choser is more of a newer word. But it says the word hazir in the Torah means to return. And it's going to one day return. What does that mean? It's going to return to its glory. What does that mean? That the pig's going to... What does that mean? Well, what it means is, if it's true that the pig represents Edom, it means that in the fullness of time, we are going to get back to our state of Israel. And it's not only that we're going to go back, but it's the pig that's going to bring us back. And the pig represents the fourth exile, the Galut of Edom. How interesting that 70, 80 years ago, the nations of the world sat around the table and they gave us back the state of Israel, which is maybe the beginning of what the Midrash is talking about. That the pig, Edom, is going to return us to our land. We are seeing slowly that process unfolding in front of our eyes, Be'ezrat Hashem. But not only that, many understand that it's referring to the pig itself. So if you are a pig lover and you can't wait to taste bacon, patience, my son. One day, very soon, the pig, according to some opinions, is going to, it says, it's going to go back and become kosher. Now, what does that mean? That the pig is going to be kosher. The Radbaz, Rav David ibn Zimra, from 500 years ago, he writes in a tshuva, a responsa, 828, Rabbi Bernstein quotes this, he says something very nice. He says like this, you know, there's a phrase, today on Pesach, I don't know about you guys, but this year, I didn't feel it was Pesach at all. There's so much food today. There's so many amazing tasting cakes. It used to be 20 years ago, you felt Pesach, you know, you ate the dessert, you're like, oh my gosh, you're like trying to swallow it, but it doesn't taste good. Today, the cakes are better than the regular year-round cakes. You don't taste it. You don't feel that it's Pesach today. You have every food. They make everything out of potato starch. They have bread. They had lafas. The guy was telling me, he's like, I was on a program. I was eating lafa, and I was eating, right, not real lafa, but he's like, it felt like a regular program, a regular holiday. You didn't realize it was Pesach today. The chefs are so good. You don't feel it. And says Rav David ibn Zimra, that's what it means, that we're going to eat not a kosher pig. It means that we're going to have so much meat. We're going to have fakin. You're going to have food that tastes like any type of meat you want. You won't even feel that we're not eating pig anymore. Because we're going to have so much variety. We're going to be so successful, so affluent. We're going to have every type of meat we want. He says that's what it means. You know, there's another interesting midrash that connects. It says that in the future, all the holidays will be annulled. Did you know that? All the holidays will be annulled. What does that mean? We're not going to have Pesach and Sukkot anymore? No, says David ibn Zimra, says the Radbaz, it means the same exact thing that we just said. It means that we're going to live in the future in a time that it's going to be so much peace. What is a holiday? Holiday, I don't have financial stress. I don't have to worry about anything. I'm with my family. We're going to get in the future to times that every day of the week is going to be like that. I'm going to have zero headache, zero heartache. Every day I'm going to be with my friends and family. My business is going to run on automatic, on pilot. And it's going to just, it's going to be so easy that I won't feel when the holiday comes that it's actually a holiday. Because to feel the holiday, you're going to need contrast. In the future, you won't have that contrast because every day is going to be a holiday. That's what that midrash means. Amazing. However, some explain literally that the pig, yes, Olam Shekulo Shabbat, beautiful Ariel. But some explain literally that in the future, the pig is going to literally be okay. It's going to be kosher. What's going to change? So the Maharam Mipano says, what's going to change is it's going to start chewing its cud. What's the reason a pig is not kosher? Because it doesn't chew its cud. It has split hooves, but it doesn't chew its cud. So if theoretically one day a pig starts chewing its cud, it's going to be kosher. It has the two signs. Which actually goes back to a different, what we call in Hebrew, a chakira, an interesting question. Are these signs, are they a siman or a siba? Are they a reason or are they the symbol? Right? But either way, it seems like according to the Maharam Mipano, they are a symbol. And therefore, once they have it, they're going to become kosher again. Interestingly, if you open the pasuk, and we're going to end with this. If you open the pasuk in our parasha that speaks about the animals, and it comes now to the animal, the pig. Look at this pasuk. I want to see if you could pick this up. Okay, listen well. If you speak Hebrew, you'll pick it up very easily. Ve'ete chazir. Also, the pig is not kosher. You ready? Ki mafris parsahu ve'shosa shesa parsa. Because it has split hooves, completely separated. Vehu gera lo yigar. Anyone notice something about those words? It doesn't chew its cud. Lo yigar. It's in the future tense. Says Rabbi Bernstein. Beautiful. Says Rabbi Bernstein. Because what the pasuk is saying, that if in the future it doesn't chew its cud, it's not kosher. But if in the future it starts chewing its cud, it will become kosher. Very, very interesting. But either way, it could be just bringing and tying it full circle back to the Ramban Nachmanides, that it's all about spiritual nutrition. And you are what you eat. And these animals are very nasty and they make your nature nasty. If it's true that in the future it's going to start chewing its cud, maybe what that means, like the pasuk in Yeshaya says, and we read it in the holiday, we pray for the days very soon where the wolf and the lamb, like the Navi Yeshaya says, the wolf and the lamb will dwell together. What wolf and lamb are going to dwell together? You ever saw a wolf? The wolf sees lamb, it sees dinner. But the pasuk says one day in the future, the wolf is going to hang out with the lamb. They're going to be best friends. Meaning the nature of the animals will become better. And if that's the case, so now that explains why now we're allowed to eat these animals. Because they're no longer going to harm our nature. Because they have changed their nature in the fullness of time. We are praying that these days should arrive very, very soon. The sin of Adam will become fully rectified. No more aggression. V'haya Hashem lemelech al kol haaretz, where we will see very soon the full tikkun. The world will go back to a state of peace. Be'ezrat Hashem. Ve'gar ze'ev im keves. The wolf will live with the lamb. We will live in peace with the rest of the world. We're waiting for those days very, very soon. Be'ezrat Hashem. We'll stop over here. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.